Hey everyone, this is Jonah Johnson with you for another edition of JJ in the Field. Hey guys, we're here in Southwest Ohio and we are standing in the middle of Miami County today. And boy, what does a week's weather make a difference? So if you remember last Monday and Tuesday, we were in the upper 40s with a nasty wind and rain, and we were freezing while we were doing these videos. And today, funny enough, like we joked about, we're probably 90 degrees. Beautiful day as we're filming this here on the 4th week of May. And today we've had a lot of questions from growers coming in that unfortunately had optimal planting conditions, but then all of a sudden we've had a tremendous amount of rain in a very short period of time. In a lot of fields right now, the water is finally starting to recede. We still are seeing some major shower wind events coming across. Here in Ohio, we got guys that's had seed in the ground for 2, 3, some cases 4 weeks. And we've done some digging, and there's a lot of questions. Do I go back in and stitch seed in? Do I puddle jump and fill in holes? Do I replant? So we thought we'd go through some scenarios here that we're seeing here in Miami County. So if we look here on the board, we dug some plants, and here on some of these plants we've had in this field we have planted on May 12th, DeKalb 6220, and irregardless of the hybrid planted, when they get the conditions of 4 and 5 and 6 inches of rain very quickly, it sat on this field for several days in a row, it starts to beg the question, are my plants still mortal and still surviving? And so as we can see, if you follow the tip of my shovel point here, this is an example of what we kind of had here. We had a thin crust forming on top of the ground, still adequate moisture, but what happened to these seedlings underground? And so, typically you have about 48 hours of oxygen in the soil that's able to sustain active growth on plants. And once that extinguishes, it becomes an anoxic environment and tough for these plants to survive. And so then on top of that, you have, the time water sits on it. And so anytime water sits on young seedling plants or plants below the ground, we can introduce pathogens depending on the temperature, and then also things that we see later in the year like common smut and crazy top, bring plants up to as low as 12 hours, pretty typical 24 hours. Then they're going to be a bit behind and potentially become a weed. But at this case, anytime you have even stands still and they're still trying to come, that may be best to leave it alone versus coming in and trying to stitch in corn. But as we move here to the right, you'll note that there's some other plants started, we hit this crust level I tried to demonstrate here, and we turned, the mesocotyl turned around, the coleoptile tried, but it wasn't able to push through that crust. Then we have some other examples here as we go across the board at ones that did germinate, but just kind of petered out and stopped. As we pan to the right here, we can note some ones that this black line here is our zero line to the soil surface, and they're still coming. Seed was rigid. If you may note some purple in the plant, that's similar to what happens above ground. The purple, the anthocyanin and sugar build up because if you note there's not much root yet, so there's sugars built up in here that hasn't been able to burn and extinguish those through the roots. As you look across here, we have all different kind of variants of plants emerging across the ground. So if you have a squishy seed, brown plants, doesn't look healthy, those probably are not going to make it. But plants that are not and they're still coming, may be worth giving it a couple more days. Most cases it's still wet, guys aren't going to be able to get back in the field for a week, and then try to reevaluate at that time. We've seen optimal yields down in the 22 to 25,000 when they had an even stand, but if it's get to a case where you've had a lot of different big open holes, big uneven rows within the field, then that becomes a more challenging situation. So just get out there, dig some plants and see what you have, and hopefully that'll help make you have a handle on when you need to pull that trigger and consider to replant in your fields. This is Jonah T. Johnson, sales agronomist with PCT Sunrise. Thanks for watching.